Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Salem Police Department's traffic chat for the 2 o'clock hour here on May 9th, 2016. I'm Officer Mark Jantz with the Salem Police Department's Crime Prevention Unit, and I have with me Officer Chris Zoner from the Traffic Control Unit.
Thanks for having me.
So the plan is that we're going to go for about 15 minutes here and answer any questions that you folks might have. Basically, anything goes as far as questions related to traffic is what we're looking at. And you can send those in either via the Periscope app or through Twitter. And we are at Salem_police if you're not already following, which you should be, because that's how you probably found out about this traffic chat. So here we go. We'll just start it off with a question that might spark some interest and maybe get the ball rolling. We had one question come in earlier, Chris, where it was about Commercial Street and Owens. Owens is I guess it would be Liberty side. And Liberty is a one-way heading north, and then you have the Owens traffic there as well that want to turn left onto Liberty Street. So can you turn left from either one of those lanes coming off of that direction?
Yes, you can. So Commercial and Liberty Street. So Liberty would be a 3 or 4 lane northbound, all one-way roadway, and then Owens Street would be 2 lanes eastbound, and then 1 lane to the west. So those 2 eastbound lanes on a red light can turn on that red light and proceed northbound on Liberty. So there's a lot of misconceptions about when and when you cannot turn on a red light. Obviously, on a red light, you can turn right onto a roadway. Everybody knows that one for the most part. But with the left turn, if you're turning onto a one-way roadway, either from a one-way or from a 2-way roadway, you can make that left turn onto the one-way.
Okay.
So it doesn't have to be a 1-lane road or a 2-lane road on the road that you're on, but if you're turning onto a one-way, that is completely acceptable.
So it would be similar as if you're heading westbound on Mission Street, coming down over the overpass there towards 12th, like you're heading towards the Salem Hospital. There's it's the same kind of a thing. 12th Street's a one-way there, and there's 2 left turn lanes. As long as you make that stop, then you can go ahead and proceed.
Correct.
As long as it's clear.
Correct. You have to stop at the clearly delineated stop line. Or a crosswalk, prior to a crosswalk or the stop line. But then you can make that left-hand turn. You just have to yield to the vehicles that are approaching you.
Okay, great. Some of the other questions that we might see today is in relation to crosswalks. And we've started a traffic safety campaign, where we're trying to educate people on crosswalk safety. We're using the slogan, "Be Crosswalk Smart." And a lot of times people don't realize when they can proceed, when they have to stop, because of maybe it's 2 lanes, 3 lanes, that sort of thing. So let's talk in particular just about like a 3-lane, so 3 lanes in one direction with a crosswalk. We see that outside City Hall on the Commercial Street side. Who all has to stop when there's a pedestrian in that crosswalk?
Okay, well, there's 2 different types of crosswalks in the state of Oregon. There's a marked crosswalk, which everyone knows would be at an intersection or mid-intersection, so like in the middle of a city block, but it's a marked crosswalk, which is usually delineated by painted crosswalk lines on the street, possibly some signs before the crosswalk to alert traffic that there might be crossing pedestrians. So that's the first one, it's a marked crosswalk. The second one would be an unmarked crosswalk. So it would be where any intersection is at, that is considered an unmarked crosswalk. So that is where pedestrians can legally cross and that vehicles are required to yield to them while they're in the roadway. Specifically on certain roadways, there's several different factors that we see commonly as being a part of the traffic unit. For instance, say on a 2-lane roadway, 2 lanes that are both going the same direction. So say, for instance, 2 lanes are going to the south and there's a marked crosswalk. If someone is proceeding across the roadway in a marked crosswalk, each vehicle is required to stop and let them pass and get over the street into the sidewalk area. So what we commonly see is someone will be passing, say, from the right to the left. the traffic will stop, but as soon as they get over the middle lane lines into that left lane, the traffic in the right lane will start to go, and then they'll be passing them when they're still in the roadway, and that is technically a violation, and it's a $260 citation for not yielding to the person in the crosswalk. So with a 3-lane roadway, you need to yield to the lane which is adjacent to your lane. So if you're in the middle lane and there's a pedestrian crossing in a marked or an unmarked crosswalk, in the middle lane, you are required to stop and remain stopped while that pedestrian is in the roadway. If you are in the right lane and you have 2 lanes on the left of you, you're required to stop and remain stopped while that pedestrian is in your lane, the adjacent lane, which will be to your left, and then once they're past the lane that's adjacent to you, then you can slowly proceed from there and continue your drive. But that's the big one that we see is people think, well, once they're out of my lane, I'm free to go, and that's not the case.
Right. And that doesn't mean, I mean, just because it's the law and you're allowed to do it doesn't mean that it's necessarily the best idea, because
Right.
if you were to get somebody that all of a sudden changed their mind, turn around, they drop something, whatever the case may be, they may be running back across your lane of travel. And so probably a better idea, just even though you may be legally justified to do it, it's probably a better idea to just wait until it's completely safe and clear, right?
Right, and that's what we see a lot, is we see that people are in a rush, they're distracted, whether it be by cell phones, loud radios, animals, kids, coffees. Everybody drinks their coffee while they're going to work in the morning. You know, I'm out and about every morning watching traffic, and I see people putting on makeup, I see people combing their hair, I see people shaving, which technically that's not a violation. Using a cell phone would be a violation, but when we talk about that distracted driving, we see that's an issue with crosswalks. But you know, what I tell people is you need to drive a vehicle and exercise due care. And what exercising due care means is what a reasonable person would do under the same circumstances to protect other people or to watch out for the safety of others. So yes, you might be justified or legally justified to be able to do something in a motor vehicle, but is it the right thing to do? Is it the safe thing to do? And the same goes for pedestrians. We see a lot of pedestrians that are at fault in some accidents, some collisions. We see that every once in a while, and it does happen. And pedestrians need to understand that at the same time they're supposed to exercise due care for themselves and for motorists that are on the roadways.
Right, and it just makes sense. I mean, if you've got a big, heavy object coming at you, you probably ought to use some caution before you step out into the street.
Right, and I think everybody's probably seen it to where they'll be stopped at a crosswalk or they'll be approaching a crosswalk, whether it's an intersection and you have a red light, for instance, and there's a car stopped on, say, your left, and you see a pedestrian crossing, and at no point does he look to the next lanes to see that there's cars that are stopping. And it does happen to where somebody will be distracted, or they'll think they can beat the pedestrian, and they will not quite come to a full stop, or they'll just run through the red light. And if the pedestrian's not paying attention, then there could be a bad accident. So
I need to get in here with some questions, okay?
Sure, yeah, go.
So what is the worst that can happen to a person if they're cited for reckless driving?
So a driver that's cited for reckless driving?
Yep.
So reckless driving is a crime. It's a misdemeanor crime. So it's not like a traffic violation. So say speeding is a traffic violation, meaning that there's a Class A, Class B, Class C, and Class D, which carries a monetary fine. The highest fine of traffic citation being $435, the lowest being $110, and then the Class B and C are kind of in between. But reckless driving is a crime, so it's an A misdemeanor. So that there's a lot of things that could happen, but it could be probation or it could be jail time. So that's kind of up to a judge, but reckless driving is a crime and it goes on your criminal record. So anytime that you would be issued a citation or arrested for reckless driving, that does go on your criminal record that will follow you for the remainder of your life.
So another question was, what if, do you have any issue if I'm using my cell phone GPS function while driving? Not making calls, not making texts, just using the GPS unit.
Well, there is some case law that we're seeing right now. So when the Oregon legislature wrote the statute for operating a motor vehicle while using a mobile communications device, They wrote down their text, two-way talk, that kind of thing. So what we find is that when they first write laws, whether it be criminal or civil or violation type laws, there tends to be some loopholes that kind of pop up a little bit later. And so what we're finding is that there may be some case law now that says that GPS is not a violation, but I will tell you and be very upfront, that is still under litigation, and so citations can still be issued for using a GPS. And what I tell people is, if you're going to use GPS, which I understand that's the world that we live in nowadays, if you're going to use GPS, stop, pull over, set the GPS up to where you want to go, and then put it in a place to where you can get voice directions, so that you're not having to touch the cell phone. You know, whether it's a cradle mount that's in front of you, I've seen people put it up on top of the visor so that they can hear the voice directions coming. Some people put it on the seat, but anything that takes your eyes off the roadway is a distraction. And I would say that if you're involved in a collision with a pedestrian or another car, and you were using your cell phone, whether it be GPS or whatever, I think that you're kind of going down a slippery slope. So I would just be very careful if you are using your GPS.
Okay, here's another question from Peter Gershwin. He wants to know, what are the signals for using a roundabout?
Well, not sure if I understand the questions, but a roundabout is just a way for people to. It's a way of enabling people to make turns at an intersection without having a traffic signal. So commonly you're just required to yield to the left. So any traffic that's so close as to constitute an immediate hazard, you're required to yield to. So I think everybody's seen where you're approaching a roundabout, you're supposed to slow to a given speed. Usually it's about 15 miles per hour for the roundabout. It would be posted. The roundabout would be posted, and then you're just required to yield to the left. And each municipality, whether it be Portland or Salem or Gresham or wherever, they're allowed to have roundabouts set up a certain way or a different way than other municipalities. They just need to have it posted as well. So a lot of times there's no lights.
Okay, so then is there such a thing as giving a ticket for good driving?
No, there's not. Unfortunately,
Hey, you got to try, right? You actually had some hellos from Italy, the Czech Republic, and Russia.
Russia.
Nice.
And Saudi Arabia.
I used to live in Russia, so hello, Russia.
All right.
That's awesome.
We have just about 2 minutes left. Do you guys want to cover anything real specific before we close out?
Yeah, you know, you talked about the cell phone use just really quick, just to clarify on that. A lot of people will ask, you know, is it okay to, as long as you're not holding it to your ear, can you still talk on the phone and hold it in this position as you're driving?
You cannot use your cell phone for two-way communication for texting. The only thing that you're allowed to do is hands-free.
Okay.
So everybody knows most of the time that hands-free is a Bluetooth device, whether it's synced to a device that you have attached to your ear, or whether it's attached through your vehicle, but it's got to be completely hands-free. So I commonly see folks using their cell phone and holding it on speakerphone, but they're still holding the phone. That's considered a violation. That's usually about the common one that we see, and as well as folks that are stopped at a traffic signal and use their cell phone while they're stopped at the traffic signal, but their attention is directed elsewhere. So that's considered a violation as well, because you are operating a motor vehicle, you're just stopped.
Okay.
How about U-turns, such as Liberty and Riverfront? Can you make a U-turn, or does it have to be like signed?
It has to be signed. So it's illegal to make a U-turn in the city limits of Salem, and each municipality, each city can set it up how they want to, but in the city limits of Salem, it is illegal to make a U-turn unless it is specifically stated that you can make a U-turn. And I would direct people to, like, Wallace Road. There's a ton of U-turn permitted signs on Wallace Road. So
Okay. Window tint, real quick.
window tint, anything less than 35% is illegal.
Okay.
And make sure you have your certificate of
And
tint.
whoever does the window tinting job is required to provide you a certificate that says it is more than 35%, or I should say less than 35%. So.
All right.
Would you
Okay.
wrap it up with Coffee with a Cop event?
Yeah,
You can
so
let us know the date.
May 24th, right, at the Ike Box, we're going to be doing our third Coffee with a Cop event, and it will be at 8 a.m., and we will be there to answer any questions, have a conversation with a cup of coffee with you. We want to thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you
Hi to
coming
Newport
out.
and London.
Hello.
Hi to Newport and South London.
Hello, Newport. Hello, South London. We appreciate everybody from around the world joining us, and we hope you found it valuable. We'll do it again. Give us some feedback. If you can go on to Twitter or our Facebook, let us know what you thought of it, and hopefully we'll get Officer Zoner back in here again to answer more questions for you. But for now, have a great day. Talk to you later.